Imagine this. It's late at night. The city streets are empty, lit only by the flickering streetlights and the occasional passing car. A young woman named Emma is walking home from her shift at the local diner, exhausted and lost in thought. Her feet ache from standing all day, and her worn-out shoes barely provide any comfort. She's used to this: long hours, low pay, and the endless struggle to make ends meet. Just as she rounds a corner leading to her tiny apartment, she hears something that stops her in her tracks, a faint, desperate groan coming from a dark alley. Emma's heart races. Her first instinct is to walk faster, pretend she didn't hear anything, and get home safely. But something inside her tugs at her conscience. She can't just leave someone in pain. Taking a deep breath, Emma cautiously steps closer to the sound, her eyes scanning the darkness. That's when she sees him, a man lying on the ground, barely conscious, with blood dripping from a cut on his forehead. His clothes are expensive, his shoes polished, but his face is pale and twisted in pain. Emma's instincts kick in. She kneels beside him and gently shakes his shoulder. "Hey, are you okay? Can you hear me?" The man's eyes flicker open, but he can barely speak. Without hesitation, Emma pulls out her phone and dials for an ambulance, keeping her voice calm despite the panic rising within her. As they wait, Emma takes off her scarf and presses it against the wound, trying to stop the bleeding. She doesn't know if he's been attacked, mugged, or worse, but right now it doesn't matter. He's hurt, and she's determined to help. The man, struggling to stay awake, manages a faint smile. "Thank you," he whispers. Emma just nods, unsure what to say. She notices his hands trembling and realizes how scared he must be. To distract him, she talks about her long shift at the diner, about her dream to one day save enough money to go to college. When the ambulance finally arrives, Emma helps the paramedics lift the man onto the stretcher. One of them looks at her with a mix of respect and surprise. "You did good," he says. But Emma doesn't feel like a hero, just someone who couldn't walk away from a person in need. The next morning, curiosity gnaws at her. Who was that man? Was he okay? After finishing her morning shift, Emma decides to visit the hospital. As she walks through the sterile hallways, nurses glance at her with curiosity. One finally stops her and asks, "Are you the girl who saved Lucas Grant?" Emma frowns, confused. "I'm not sure. I just helped a guy last night." The nurse's eyes widen. "Lucas Grant, the billionaire. You saved his life." Time seems to freeze. A billionaire? How could that be? Emma's mind races with questions. What would someone like him be doing alone, hurt in a dark alley? The shock is overwhelming, but more than that, a strange sense of fear creeps in. Did she do something wrong by helping him? Was she now caught up in something bigger than herself? Emma hesitates outside his hospital room, unsure whether to go in. What would a billionaire even think of her? But before she can decide, a nurse opens the door and gestures for her to come inside. Heart pounding, Emma steps in, and there he is, awake, sitting up, and looking far better than the night before. He sees her and smiles. "You came back," he says softly. "Thank you." Emma stammers, not knowing what to say. "I just wanted to make sure you were okay." Lucas nods, his gaze thoughtful. "You didn't have to help me. Most people wouldn't have. Why did you?" Emma shrugs, trying to downplay her actions. "I couldn't just leave you there. It didn't feel right." A silence settles between them, and for a moment, Lucas seems lost in thought. Then he looks at her with an intensity that makes Emma uneasy, not in a bad way, but like he's trying to understand something about her. "You didn't know who I was, did you?" he asks. Emma shakes her head. "No, I didn't." Lucas chuckles, almost as if relieved. "You're different," he says quietly. "And I mean that in a good way." But Emma can't help but wonder, what kind of life does a billionaire lead that he ends up hurt and alone on the streets? And why does his gratitude feel so personal? Emma couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. She hadn't planned on getting involved in anyone's life, especially not someone as wealthy and seemingly untouchable as Lucas Grant. As she left the hospital, a whirlwind of thoughts raced through her mind. Why was a billionaire wandering alone late at night? Why wasn't there security with him? And why did he seem so vulnerable? Back at her apartment, Emma tried to go about her routine, preparing a simple dinner, folding her thrift store clothes, and getting ready for her next shift. But her phone buzzed unexpectedly. It was an unknown number. "Hello." Emma answered hesitantly. "Miss Emma Collins?" A woman's voice said, professional and firm. "This is Julia Bennett, personal assistant to Mr. Lucas Grant. He would like to invite you to dinner as a gesture of gratitude for your help last night." "Dinner? With him?" Emma's pulse quickened. Was this some kind of joke? Before she could gather her thoughts, Julia continued. "A car will pick you up at 7. Formal attire is suggested." Emma hung up, still dazed. Did he really want to thank her? Or was there more to it? She glanced at her wardrobe, realizing she didn't own anything even close to formal. After scraping together her savings, she bought a simple but elegant dress from a local boutique. That evening, a sleek black car pulled up outside her rundown apartment. Emma felt out of place just stepping into it, but the driver smiled reassuringly. They whisked her through the city, past places she'd only ever seen on TV, high-end shops, luxurious hotels, and finally, a grand estate on the outskirts of town. The mansion loomed large, glittering under the soft glow of lanterns. Inside, everything was polished marble, crystal chandeliers, and classical music. Emma felt like she had stepped into a movie. A butler led her to a private dining room, where Lucas was already waiting, looking far more put together than the last time she'd seen him. He stood up as she entered, a warm smile on his face. "You came," he said, genuinely pleased. Emma managed a small smile. "I almost didn't. This is a bit much for me." Lucas chuckled, gesturing for her to sit. "It's the least I can do after you saved my life. I wanted to properly thank you." As dinner was served, courses more lavish than anything Emma had ever tasted, Lucas kept the conversation surprisingly light. He asked her about her life, her job at the diner, her dreams. Emma was hesitant at first, but Lucas had a way of listening that made her feel safe. Finally, curiosity got the better of her. "Can I ask you something?" Emma ventured. "Of course," Lucas replied, intrigued. "What were you doing out there that night alone?" Lucas's smile faded. For the first time, his confident demeanor seemed to falter. "It's complicated," he admitted. "Sometimes when life gets overwhelming, I just walk. No security. No pretense. Just me, trying to feel human again." Emma raised an eyebrow. "But you're a billionaire. Why would you feel lost?" Lucas hesitated, clearly unused to being questioned like this. "Money doesn't fix everything. Sometimes it isolates you. You never know who truly cares or who just wants something from you." He looked at her intently. "That's why your kindness meant so much. You helped me without knowing who I was. No agenda, just pure compassion." Emma's cheeks flushed. She hadn't done it for recognition or reward. She'd just followed her heart. Lucas's expression softened. "I've been surrounded by people my whole life, but I've never met anyone like you. Genuine. Honest. I needed that more than I realized." Just then, the door opened, and Julia stepped in, looking serious. She whispered something into Lucas's ear, and his face grew tense. Emma couldn't make out the words, but it was clear something was wrong. Lucas sighed, apologizing to Emma. "I'm sorry. There's something I have to deal with. Can I see you again?" Emma nodded, still unsure why he was so intent on keeping her around. As she left the mansion, her mind was buzzing. Did he really mean what he said, or was he just being polite? And what was that urgent matter that interrupted their dinner? The next morning, Emma's life took a bizarre turn. News outlets exploded with headlines. "Billionaire Lucas Grant attacked. Mysterious Good Samaritan saves his life." The story detailed how Lucas was ambushed while leaving a charity event, but the details were murky. Some speculated it was a targeted attack. Others claimed it was a robbery gone wrong. But one detail was consistent: the mysterious young woman who helped him. Emma's phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Reporters somehow tracked her down, eager for an interview. Panic set in. She hadn't signed up for this kind of attention. At work, customers whispered, some congratulating her, others speculating about her motives. That evening, as she tried to process it all, there was a knock at her door. She hesitated, but then cautiously opened it to find Lucas standing there, looking more troubled than before. "I'm so sorry," he said immediately. "I didn't want you dragged into this. The media found out about you, and now they're spinning stories. I came to make sure you're okay." Emma was touched by his concern, but also frustrated. "Why didn't you tell me this could happen?" Lucas looked genuinely guilty. "I didn't think it would. I underestimated how relentless they can be. But I promise I'll fix this." But as he spoke, Emma noticed something different, a shadow of fear behind his eyes. It wasn't just the media that worried him. Something deeper was at play, and Lucas wasn't telling her the whole story. As Lucas stood in her doorway, Emma couldn't shake the feeling that he was hiding something. The way his eyes darted around, the tension in his posture, it was like he was waiting for something to go wrong. "Lucas," Emma said cautiously, "what's really going on? Why are they after you?" He hesitated, then finally spoke, his voice low. "It wasn't just a random attack, Emma. Someone wants me out of the picture." Emma's mind raced. "What do you mean? Who would want to hurt you?" Lucas sighed, running a hand through his hair. "My family, or at least someone close to me. I inherited my father's business empire recently, and not everyone was happy about it. My older brother, Nathan, was supposed to take over, but things changed at the last minute. Now he's furious, and he's not the only one." Emma's heart pounded. "You think your own brother tried to?" Lucas nodded slowly. "He's always been ambitious, but I never thought he'd go this far. After our father's death, he expected to be named the successor. But Dad changed his will right before he died, giving everything to me. No one knows why. Not even me." Suddenly, everything made sense. The late-night walk, the desire to escape the mansion's suffocating atmosphere. It wasn't just about feeling human. It was about survival. Lucas had been trying to clear his mind, to think without his brother's shadow looming over him. "But why did your dad change his will?" Emma pressed. Lucas shook his head. "I've been trying to figure that out. Dad wasn't the kind to play favorites. He believed in hard work, merit. I guess he saw something in me that he didn't in Nathan. Or maybe he knew something I didn't." Emma's thoughts swirled with possibilities. What if Lucas's father discovered something about Nathan, something that made him unfit to run the empire? Or worse, something dangerous? As if reading her mind, Lucas spoke up again. "There were rumors. People whispered that Nathan was involved in some shady deals, using the company's name to move money around. But nothing was ever proven." Emma's instincts kicked in. What if your father found proof and changed the will to protect the company? Lucas looked at her, a glimmer of hope in his eyes. "That would explain a lot. But I've combed through the documents, his files, nothing. It's like whatever he knew vanished with him." Just then, Lucas's phone rang, and he glanced at the screen. His face went pale. "It's Nathan." Emma watched as he debated whether to answer. Finally, he picked up, putting it on speaker. "Lucas." Nathan's voice came through, smooth but cold. "I heard you had a rough night. Are you okay?" Lucas didn't miss a beat. "Yeah, just a little shaken. Nothing I can't handle." There was a pause on the other end. "Good. You know, the media's blowing it out of proportion. I told them to back off, but you know how vultures are." Emma could feel the tension between the brothers even through the phone. Nathan's concern felt fake, like he was testing the waters. "Appreciate it," Lucas replied evenly. Nathan chuckled. "You know, little brother, you've been under a lot of stress lately. Maybe it's time you took a break from all this. The board's getting anxious. They think you're overwhelmed." Lucas's jaw tightened. "I'm fine. The company's fine." "Is it?" Nathan countered. "Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you're cracking under pressure. Maybe you're not cut out for this." Lucas didn't respond, and Nathan sighed. "Think about it. Take a break. Let me handle things for a while. You deserve some peace." The call ended abruptly. Lucas stared at the phone, his hand trembling. Emma placed a comforting hand on his shoulder. He's trying to push you out. Make you look unfit. Lucas nodded, his face hardening. If he's behind the attack, he's playing a dangerous game. But without proof, I can't do anything. And if I make a wrong move, it could destroy me and the company. Emma thought for a moment. Maybe your father left a clue.
Something you missed.
Did he have a place where he kept personal records? A safe, maybe? Lucas's eyes lit up. The lake house. He used to spend weekends there alone. I always thought it was just his getaway spot, but maybe he left something there. Suddenly, determination replaced his fear. We have to go. Tonight. Emma hesitated. You're sure it's safe? Lucas gave a bitter smile. Safe doesn't exist in my world anymore. But I trust you. If you're willing, I'd feel better having you there. Before they could make a plan, headlights flashed outside Emma's window. Lucas peeked through the curtain. It's one of Nathan's cars. He must have sent someone to follow me. Emma's stomach dropped. What do we do? Lucas thought quickly. We sneak out through the back. There's a service exit down the hall. I'll call my driver to meet us around the block. They grabbed only the essentials and slipped out quietly. As they navigated the dark alleys behind Emma's building, adrenaline surged through her veins. This wasn't just about Lucas's inheritance anymore. It was about survival. Reaching the car, they sped off into the night. Lucas kept looking over his shoulder, paranoia setting in. If Nathan finds out where we're going, he'll stop at nothing. Emma squeezed his hand. We'll find the truth. Whatever your father left behind, it'll clear your name and expose whoever's behind this. Lucas nodded, the weight of the world on his shoulders. As they drove toward the lake house, neither of them noticed the black SUV trailing a few cars behind. As they drove through the winding country roads, Lucas remained tense, his eyes darting to the rearview mirror. Emma noticed his unease and glanced back as well, but the road behind them seemed empty. It's probably just my nerves, Lucas muttered, but Emma wasn't so sure. The air was thick with danger, and every sound seemed amplified in the quiet night. After nearly an hour, they arrived at the lake house. The old cottage stood solemnly by the water, its windows dark and reflective. Lucas parked the car behind some bushes to keep it hidden. They approached cautiously, and Lucas fumbled with the key, finally pushing the door open. Dust hung in the air, disturbed only by their hurried movements. Where would your dad keep something important? Emma asked as they stepped inside. Lucas pointed to a small study at the back of the house. He spent a lot of time there. If he left anything, it would be there. They entered the room, and Lucas immediately moved to the old desk, pulling out drawers and shuffling through papers. Emma searched the bookshelf, running her fingers over the spines, hoping to find something unusual. After nearly half an hour of searching, frustration set in. Lucas sat back in the worn leather chair, rubbing his temples. What if there's nothing here? Emma knelt next to him. Think. Your father was meticulous, right? He wouldn't just leave something out in the open. Lucas looked at the desk again, his eyes narrowing. Then he stood up suddenly, moving to the bookshelf. He pulled one of the thicker volumes, but it didn't budge. Realization dawned on his face. It's stuck or locked, he whispered. This was one of his favorite books. Emma inspected the book too, noticing a small metal latch on the side. She pressed it, and with a soft click, the entire shelf shifted, revealing a hidden compartment behind it. Inside was a leather-bound journal, old and worn. Lucas picked it up, his hands trembling. This was his private journal, he whispered. He flipped through the pages, his eyes scanning the handwriting. Emma saw his face change from confusion to shock. What does it say? She asked, trying to read over his shoulder. Lucas read aloud, his voice barely above a whisper. Nathan, involved in laundering money through the company. Illegal deals, threats against my life. Dad suspected him for months, but couldn't prove it outright. He paused, swallowing hard. There's more. Dad mentions hiring a private investigator. Someone who found evidence, documents, recordings, but before he could deliver them, he died in a car crash. Dad believed it wasn't an accident. Emma gasped. Nathan, he might have had him killed. Lucas flipped the page, his breath hitching. Dad writes that he changed the will the day after finding out. He didn't trust Nathan anymore, but he kept this journal hidden to protect me. If Nathan found out that I knew, he wouldn't stop until I was dead too. Suddenly, headlights flashed through the window. Lucas's eyes widened. Someone's here. Emma peered outside. The black SUV from earlier was parked just down the road. Two men got out, dressed in dark suits. They must have followed us, she whispered, fear creeping into her voice. Lucas grabbed her hand, pulling her toward the back door. We need to get out now. But as they reached the kitchen, the front door crashed open. Heavy footsteps echoed through the house.
Panic set in.
Lucas pushed Emma toward the back exit.
Go.
I'll hold them off. No, Emma protested. We're in this together. Before they could move, one of the men appeared in the hallway, spotting them. There they are, he shouted, and the other man charged forward. Lucas grabbed a heavy iron poker from the fireplace, standing between Emma and the intruders. Stay back, he shouted, but his voice betrayed his fear. The first man lunged, and Lucas swung the poker, catching him in the side. The man stumbled but recovered quickly. The second intruder aimed a gun at Lucas, but before he could fire, a blinding light filled the room. Police sirens blared from outside. A booming voice ordered, "Drop your weapons and come out with your hands up." The men froze, panic evident on their faces. Lucas looked at Emma, stunned. How did they know? Emma smiled through her fear. I called the police while you were reading. Gave them the address. Relief flooded Lucas's face as the men were forced to the ground by the officers. One of the detectives approached, his expression serious. We've been investigating Nathan's business dealings for months. This confirms everything. You're safe now, Mr. Ford. As the police took the intruders away, Lucas pulled Emma into a tight hug, his whole body shaking with relief. You saved me, he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. Emma smiled softly. I just did what you would have done for me. Lucas pulled back, looking into her eyes. I owe you more than I can ever repay. Not just for saving my life, but for showing me what real courage looks like. The tension finally broke, and Lucas kissed her, a promise of new beginnings and hope for the future. As dawn broke over the lake, the danger faded, leaving behind the promise of a new chapter. One built not on wealth or power but on trust, resilience, and the undeniable bond that formed between two souls thrown together by fate. Days passed and life slowly returned to normal. Lucas, now officially recognized as his father's rightful heir, began the daunting task of restoring the family business. With Nathan's criminal activities exposed, the authorities took swift action, ensuring that the corrupt legacy was wiped clean. Emma stayed by Lucas's side, helping him navigate the legalities and the overwhelming media attention. Through it all, Lucas couldn't help but feel profoundly grateful, not just for his newfound freedom but for the incredible woman who made it all possible. One evening, as they sat on the porch of the lake house, Lucas broke the comfortable silence. You know, he said, his voice warm and thoughtful, it's crazy how everything changed in just a few days. I went from feeling utterly alone to having someone I can truly trust. Emma smiled, her eyes reflecting the soft glow of the setting sun. Sometimes, life puts the right people in your path at the perfect moment. You just have to trust that things will work out. Lucas squeezed her hand gently. I never imagined that the woman who saved me in that alley would also rescue my heart. They shared a quiet laugh, the weight of past fears slowly fading. It wasn't just the relief of overcoming danger, it was the realization that they had found something genuine amid the chaos. As news of Nathan's downfall spread, the world became captivated by the story. Headlines read, Heir to billion-dollar fortune rescued by courageous stranger. Dark secrets of a corporate empire exposed. Love amidst danger. How a chance encounter changed 2 lives. Lucas decided to honor his father's memory by turning the company into a force for good, donating to charities, supporting community projects, and helping those less fortunate. Emma joined him in these efforts, using her compassion and resourcefulness to inspire positive change. Their story didn't just become a tale of survival and justice, it became a message of hope, showing that even in the darkest moments, kindness can lead to unimaginable outcomes. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to share it with someone who believes in the power of kindness and destiny. Comment below and let us know. Do you think it was fate that brought Emma and Lucas together? Or was it just a coincidence? And if you enjoyed this story, make sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss more inspiring tales like this one. Thank you for watching, and remember, sometimes the smallest act of kindness can change a life.